Hi, everybody. This is Paul Garrard. I'm an independent student loan consultant, and I am very pleased to be working with the American Dental Education Association, ADEA. I'd like to welcome you to the 2025 ADEA Go Dental Virtual Fair. We've put together a series of questions we think every incoming dental school student should ask when you're looking at how to pay for dental school. You'll note that the information we're going to cover is current as of May 2025. There are some proposed changes to how to pay for dental school as well as how to repay student loans. So the information again is current as of May 2025. Question number one is a pretty obvious one. What is the cost of attendance, not only the first year, what's it going to cost you that first year, but folks, what's it going to cost you over the entire duration of the program? Now, the COA, the cost of attendance, which is also called the financial aid budget, you'll be able to find that in most cases online on your dental school's financial aid site. If you can't find that, simply talk to the financial aid office. The cost of attendance includes everything that the school thinks it's going to cost you for 1 year of your dental school education. It includes tuition and fees, an allowance for books and supplies, an allowance for all your living expenses, etc. And it's very important to know that cost of attendance number because that's the number that maximizes or shows you the limit of how much financial aid you can have each year from all sources combined. So question one, what's the overall cost of attendance or financial aid budget, not only for the first year, but be sure you look at what's it going to cost you over the entire duration of the program. The next question, how do you control your expenses? Well, when you look at the financial aid budget or cost of attendance we talked about in the previous slide, there's some items in the cost of attendance that you have no control over, such as tuition and fees. But take out those items like room and board, personal expenses, living expenses, transportation, miscellaneous, etc. Take those out of the budget and then divide that number by the number of months you are enrolled in school the first year. And that will be anywhere between 9 and 12 months, depending on your school. That will give you your monthly living allowance. And I would argue that you do have some control over that. So once again, take the full cost of attendance, pull out the things you have some control over, divide that by the number of months you're enrolled in school, and that will give you a good monthly living allowance to work with. If you have any questions about that, see the financial aid office. Now, once you know your cost of attendance or financial aid budget, an obvious question is, well, what kinds of financial aid are available to you to pay for your dental education? In general, there are two categories of financial aid available for dental school students, gift assistance and loan assistance. Now, we'll talk about loans in the upcoming slides. Gift assistance includes grants and scholarships. These are funds you do not have to pay back, and you should check with the financial aid office to, number one, find out if grants and scholarships are available at the school, and then if so, number two, how are they awarded and what kind of financial aid deadlines are there for those funds. The scholarships and grants, if they're available, may be based on financial need, they may be based on merit, or they may be based on a combination of merit and need. Please note that you're going to need to fill out the free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA, to get any kind of financial assistance from your school. Now, regardless whether or not you get any kind of gift assistance from your dental school in terms of grants or scholarships, there's a pretty good chance you're going to have to borrow. So what kind of student loans are currently available? In general, there are three categories of student loans. Federal direct loans, these are loans that come directly from the federal government. The two current types you would be borrowing are direct unsub and direct plus, also called the grad plus loan. The second type are what we call campus-based loans. These are not available at all dental schools, but these are loans where the school is actually the lender. And then the third category, private loans. Right now, you can borrow the full cost of attendance, once again, with two federal loans and likely will not need a private loan. That may be subject to change. That's another reason why it's very important for you to stay in touch with your financial aid office. You may have some private loans from college or pre-dental school, perhaps in a master's program. In general, federal student loans have far more flexibility in repayment than do private loans. That's one reason they are the #1 source of student loans for dental students. If you have questions about what kind of loans are available, we encourage you to talk with your dental school financial aid office. So if you have to borrow, how can you be sure that you're not borrowing more than you really need? Well, two comments on this. First of all, remember what we said in an earlier slide. Pull out from your cost of attendance those items that you have some control over, living expenses, transportation, miscellaneous, etc. Find out what your monthly living allowance is and see if you can beat that. In other words, don't use the full amount of your allowance. See if you can borrow under that. Number two, another way to approach this is just because you can borrow the full cost of attendance with the direct unsub and the direct plus or grad plus loan, that doesn't mean you have to. So for example, if your total cost of attendance at your dental school is $90,000 and you know you're going to need to borrow, you might start by borrowing up to $85,000 and see if that will get you through the year. If not, you can borrow up to the full cost later. So if you're going to have to borrow, how much debt can you expect to have when you come out of dental school? Well, based on the senior survey for the class of 2024, the average debt for indebted dental school students was $312,700. You'll see the numbers for pre-med educational debt and the average amount borrowed actually during dental school. Once again, these numbers are just for indebted borrowers. So what about funds for international students? If you're an international student and not eligible for federal student aid, remember you have to be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident to qualify for federal student aid. So if you're an international student, please be sure you check with your financial aid office at your dental school to see if perhaps they have any funds designated for international students, including DACA students. There is a chance that if you have to borrow as an international student, you may be able to get a private loan, but in all likelihood, you're going to need a creditworthy cosigner who is a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. But your #1 call should be to the financial aid office. So how do dental school graduates actually handle their debt after they graduate from dental school? Well, first things first, remember that dental school graduates have a terrific reputation for timely and responsible repayment of their student loans. The most recent senior survey of the class of 2024, when asked how they intended to repay their student loans, the #1 answer was to be aggressive. So there's some good news regarding repayment of dental school debt. Now, there are a number of individual repayment plans for paying back your federal student loans, including plans that are based on a time period where your loan servicer just takes your debt and they spread it out evenly over a designated period of time. But there are also income plans like income-based repayment currently available where your payment is based on your income and not your debt level. So different ways to repay your student loan debt. You may also be interested in a program such as the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, where your debt is forgiven after 10 years of working in the nonprofit sector. You may also be interested in a service commitment program, where in exchange for service with the military, National Health Service Corps, NIH, etc., perhaps also an employer, you can get repayment assistance in paying down your student loans. So lots of different ways to handle your student loan debt after you graduate from dental school. Now, are there some things that you need to know if you are going to be borrowing student loans, especially if you've never borrowed student loans before? The obvious answer to that is yes. Please know that when you borrow, regardless of whether it's a federal loan, campus-based, or a private loan, you are required to receive from your lender what's called a disclosure statement. And on that disclosure statement, there will be a lot of information about the terms and the conditions of your loan. That will include the lender, the loan servicer, that's the organization that works with you in repayment, the interest rate and whether it's fixed or variable, and your repayment options for the loan when you graduate, including any kind of grace periods you may have before you actually enter repayment. If you check on the Money Matters site, there's some information on terms that you'll be able to access. So once again, please be sure you watch for your disclosure statement when you take out student loans. And finally, where can you go for help when you have questions about paying for dental school? Without question, the #1 resource for you is always the financial aid office at your dental school. And a reminder, there are some dental schools who have a standalone financial aid office right there at the dental school. On other campuses, the financial aid for dental school may be handled on a main campus or at a main campus financial aid office. But certainly you need to find out who handles the financial aid for dental students. We'd also encourage you to always look at the Go Dental site. We'll provide as much updated information as we can to help you with questions about paying for dental school. We hope the information in this module has been helpful to you as you ask the very important question, how am I going to finance my dental school education? On behalf of the American Dental Education Association, good luck to you, and please remember that responsible borrowing leads to responsible repayment.